In the silence between stars, a scream was heard, not by those who caused it, but by those who could not ignore it. Humanity, drifting at the edge of a vast and ancient galaxy, intercepted a cry for help. It wasn't meant for us, but we answered. They called us legends. They feared us as world breakers. And now they would see why. This is the story of what happens when Deathworlders answer the echoing call. The silent scream Captain Sarah Chun rubbed her tired eyes as she stared at the communication array aboard Luna Station 7. For 3 months, she had been monitoring deep space signals as part of Earth's search for extraterrestrial intelligence program. Most days brought nothing but cosmic background radiation and the occasional pulsar signal. Today felt different. The signal appeared on her screens at 0347 hours, ship time. Unlike the random noise that usually filled the void, this transmission carried patterns that made Sarah's heart race. The mathematical sequences were too complex to be natural, too organized to be random. Someone or something was trying to communicate across the vast darkness of space. Sarah's fingers flew across her keyboard as she isolated the signal and began recording. The transmission was weak, barely detectable above the cosmic background radiation, but it was definitely artificial. More importantly, it was repeating. Every 17 minutes and 32 seconds, the same complex pattern of pulses and frequencies broadcasted into the void. Doctor Marcus Webb arrived at Sarah's workstation within an hour of her emergency call. The xenolinguist and cultural analyst was one of Earth's leading experts in theoretical alien communication, though he had never expected to put his theories into practice. His gray hair was disheveled from sleep, but his eyes were sharp with excitement as he studied Sarah's data. "This is incredible," Marcus whispered as he analyzed the signal patterns. "The mathematical progression suggests intelligence, but the frequency modulations are unlike anything in our databases. Sarah, I think we're looking at our first genuine extraterrestrial communication." Sarah felt a chill run down her spine. Humanity had dreamed of this moment for centuries, but now that it was happening, she felt overwhelmed by the responsibility. "Can you decode it?" she asked. Marcus was already deep into his analysis, comparing the alien patterns to every known mathematical and linguistic system. "It's going to take time," he said, "but there are universal concepts we can work with. Mathematics, physics, even basic emotional concepts might translate across species." For the next 18 hours, Marcus worked with barely a break. Sarah brought him coffee and watched as he filled screen after screen with calculations, translation matrices, and linguistic theories. The signal continued its relentless repetition, never changing, never stopping. The breakthrough came during the night shift. Marcus suddenly sat up straight, his face pale. "Sarah," he said quietly, "you need to call Admiral Torres immediately. This isn't a greeting or a scientific exchange. This is a distress call." Admiral Jackson Torres arrived at Luna Station 7 by emergency shuttle, bringing with him a small team of military advisors and communication specialists. The Admiral was a veteran of 3 colonial wars and had spent his career preparing for threats, both known and unknown. But nothing had prepared him for what Marcus had discovered. "The signal is coming from approximately 47 light years away," Marcus explained to the gathered group. "The species calls themselves the Kethani, and they're dying. From what I can translate, they're being systematically exterminated by another alien species called the Sralthek Empire." The room fell silent. Admiral Torres studied the translation notes with growing concern. "How accurate is this translation, Doctor?" Marcus hesitated. Language translation across species is inherently uncertain, but the mathematical components are clear. Population numbers, time references, stellar coordinates. The Kethani are broadcasting their location and begging for help. According to their data, they have less than 6 months before complete extinction. "Sir," interrupted Lieutenant Commander Hayes, one of Torres's advisors, "even if this is accurate, what can we do? We don't have faster-than-light travel. Our fastest ships would take decades to reach their system." Torres nodded grimly. Humanity had achieved remarkable things in the past century: lunar colonies, asteroid mining fusion power, but interstellar travel remained beyond their reach. Earth's most advanced spacecraft used fusion ramjets that could achieve significant fractions of light speed. But even their fastest vessels would arrive far too late to help. There's something else, Marcus said, his voice troubled. I've been analyzing other parts of the transmission, and there are references to something they call world breakers. The linguistic context suggests they're referring to a known species, and Admiral, I think they're talking about us. What do you mean? Torres asked. Marcus pulled up another section of his translation work. The Kethani database apparently contains information about various galactic species. When they reference world breakers, they use descriptors that match human characteristics. They know about Earth's climate, our biological adaptations, even our history of warfare. Sarah felt a chill. How could they know about us? We've never made contact with anyone. That's what worries me, Marcus replied. Either someone has been watching us for a very long time, or information about humanity has been circulating in galactic databases for years. The Kethani seem to know exactly what humans are capable of, and they're specifically calling for our help. Admiral Torres was quiet for several minutes, processing the implications. Finally, he spoke. Dr. Webb, in your analysis of their transmission, do the Kethani seem to believe we can actually help them? Marcus nodded slowly. Sir, they're not just broadcasting randomly into space. This signal is directional, aimed specifically at our solar system. They know we're here, they know what we are, and they believe we have the capability to intervene. The debate that followed lasted 3 days. Earth's political and military leadership struggled with an impossible decision. How could humanity help a dying alien species located dozens of light years away? The logistics seemed insurmountable, the technology requirements far beyond their current capabilities, but the signal continued, its desperate repetition a constant reminder of lives hanging in the balance. Sarah found herself unable to sleep, haunted by the knowledge that somewhere in the darkness, an entire civilization was crying out for help. The breakthrough came from an unexpected source. Dr. Elena Vasquez, Earth's leading expert in exotic physics, presented a radical proposal to the Emergency Council. We've been thinking about this wrong, she explained. We don't need to send ships to their location. We need to bring their location to us. Her plan involved humanity's most classified military project, a network of gravitational manipulation devices originally designed for asteroid mining and planetary defense. With significant modifications, these devices could theoretically create localized space-time distortions, effectively creating temporary shortcuts through space. The power requirements are enormous, Elena admitted, and the risks are significant. But if we can coordinate the gravitational fields of 12 different installations across our solar system, we might be able to create a stable wormhole lasting just long enough to send a fleet through. Admiral Torres studied the technical specifications with growing amazement. Doctor, you're talking about reshaping space-time itself. The energy requirements alone would drain half our solar power grid. Yes, sir, Elena replied, but it's possible. We've been working with gravitational technology for 20 years. This would just be the largest application ever attempted. Sarah watched the discussion with fascination and growing hope. Humanity had always been adaptable, always found ways to overcome impossible obstacles. Now they were being asked to do something that should have been impossible. Mount an interstellar rescue mission with technology that didn't quite exist yet. The final decision came from an unexpected source. Captain Chun received a new transmission from the Kethani, this one different from the repeated distress call. Marcus worked feverishly to translate it, and what he found changed everything. Admiral, Marcus called out, his voice tight with emotion. This is a message specifically for humanity. They know we've been listening. The new message was heartbreaking in its simplicity. The Kethani had detected Earth's response to their distress call, the increased communication traffic and power signatures from Luna Station 7. They knew humans were trying to help, and they were expressing gratitude for simply not being alone in their final days, but more importantly, they were sharing crucial information. The Sralfek Empire was not just exterminating the Kethani, They were expanding throughout the galaxy, consuming entire civilizations. Earth was on their target list. They're warning us. Marcus translated. The Sraulfek have identified Earth as a future conquest target. They consider us a problematic species that requires careful timing to defeat. If we don't stop them now, they'll come for us next. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. This was no longer just about helping strangers, it was about humanity's own survival. Admiral Torres stood up slowly. Dr. Vasquez, how long would you need to modify our gravitational systems for your wormhole project? 6 weeks, sir. Maybe 5 if we push every engineering team to their limits. Torres nodded. Do it. Sarah, I want you to send a response to the Kethani. Tell them help is coming. As the meeting dispersed and teams rushed to begin the impossible task ahead, Sarah remained at her communication station. She crafted a simple mathematical message and transmitted it toward the Kethani system. Received, help coming. Hold on. Somewhere in the darkness, 47 light years away, the response was received. For the first time in months, the Kethani distress signal changed. A new element was added to the transmission, a mathematical sequence that Marcus would later translate as hope. Humanity was going to war across the stars, armed with nothing but determination and the desperate need to protect the innocent. The galaxy was about to discover why some species earned the title World Breakers. The storm unleashed the transformation of human space began immediately after Admiral Torres's decision. Across the solar system, gravitational manipulation installations that had been used for peaceful asteroid mining and planetary engineering were rapidly converted into components of the largest space-time manipulation project ever attempted. Captain Sarah Chin watched from Luna Station 7 as construction crews worked around the clock to install additional gravitational field generators. The scale of the undertaking was staggering. 12 different installations from Mercury to Neptune had to be precisely coordinated to create a stable wormhole. Even a small miscalculation could tear apart the fabric of space-time itself. Dr. Elena Vasquez pushed her engineering teams beyond all reasonable limits. Sleep became a luxury as humanity raced against time to save a species they had never met. The Kethani transmission continued its desperate countdown, each update showing their population numbers dropping steadily. The power requirements are even higher than we calculated, Elena reported during an emergency briefing. We'll need to temporarily shut down all non-essential systems across human space. Every colony, every mining operation, every research station will have to contribute their power to the grid. Admiral Torres studied the power distribution charts. How long can we maintain the wormhole? At maximum, 6 hours, Elena replied. And that's assuming everything works perfectly. More realistically, we're looking at 4 hours to send a fleet through, complete whatever mission is necessary, and return. 4 hours to save an entire civilization. Sarah felt the weight of responsibility crushing down on her shoulders. She had been the first to hear the Kethani cry for help, and now humanity was risking everything to answer that call. The fleet that assembled at the wormhole generation point was unlike anything in human history. Rather than massive battleships, Admiral Torres had chosen smaller, more versatile vessels designed for rapid deployment and maximum adaptability. Each ship carried a crew trained in hostile environment operations and equipped with technology that pushed the boundaries of human engineering. Commander Jake Morrison led the primary assault force aboard the Starship Defiance. His crew of 40 specialists had trained for every conceivable scenario, from ship-to-ship combat to ground operations in toxic environments. But nothing could truly prepare them for fighting an alien empire that had conquered dozens of star systems. Remember, Torres addressed the fleet commanders during their final briefing. We don't know what we're going to find on the other side. The Kethani gave us coordinates, but the situation may have changed dramatically since their last transmission. Your primary mission is to evaluate the threat and rescue as many survivors as possible. Lieutenant Commander Amy Rodriguez, piloting the fast reconnaissance ship Pathfinder, would be the first through the wormhole. Her vessel was designed for speed and stealth, equipped with the most advanced sensors human technology could produce. Her job was to assess the tactical situation and guide the main fleet. As the final preparations completed, Sarah received one last transmission from the Kethany. Marcus worked frantically to translate it while the gravitational generators powered up around them. "They're saying goodbye," Marcus reported, his voice heavy with emotion. "They don't think anyone can reach them in time. They're thanking us for trying." Sarah felt tears in her eyes. "Tell them we're coming. Tell them to hold on just a little longer." The wormhole activation began at precisely 1,400 hours ship time. 12 gravitational installations across the solar system synchronized their output, focusing incredible energies into a single point in space near Jupiter. The effect was spectacular and terrifying. Reality itself seemed to twist and fold as space-time bent to humanity's will. The wormhole stabilized after 37 minutes of careful calibration, revealing a tunnel through space that connected their solar system to the Kethany homeworld 47 light-years away. Through the swirling energy, they could see stars that no human had ever observed. "Pathfinder, you are cleared for transit," Admiral Torres transmitted. "Good luck." Amy Rodriguez piloted her ship into the wormhole, feeling the strange sensation of traveling through folded space. The journey took only minutes, but when she emerged on the other side, she found herself in a nightmare. The Kethany system was a battlefield. Massive alien ships, clearly belonging to the Srauthek Empire, surrounded the homeworld like predators circling wounded prey. The planet's surface glowed with the fires of bombardment, and debris fields marked the locations where the Kethany Defense Fleet had made their final stand. "Defiance, this is Pathfinder," Amy transmitted back through the wormhole. "The situation is worse than we thought. I count 47 Srauthek vessels, including what appears to be a planetary siege platform. The Kethany homeworld is under active bombardment." Commander Morrison's response was immediate. "Understood, Pathfinder. Fleet is en route." The human fleet emerged from the wormhole in attack formation, their smaller ships moving with coordination that surprised the Srauthek forces. The alien empire had conquered dozens of civilizations, but they had always faced opponents who fought conventional space battles with massive fleets and predictable tactics. Humans fought differently. Instead of engaging the larger Srauthek vessels directly, the human ships scattered into seemingly random patterns. Each vessel used its superior maneuverability to exploit weaknesses in the alien formation, striking quickly and disappearing before the enemy could respond effectively. Commander Morrison led the charge aboard Defiance, his ship weaving between asteroids and debris to avoid the massive energy weapons of the Srauthek fleet. Human ships were smaller and less heavily armed, but they were also faster and more adaptable than anything the aliens had encountered. "Target their communication arrays first," Morrison ordered his weapons officer. "If we can disrupt their coordination, their numbers won't matter as much." The battle that followed defied every tactical assumption the Srauthek had made about galactic warfare. Human ships used the planet's gravity well as a tactical advantage, diving close to the surface to gain speed, and then using that momentum to strike at unexpected angles. They fought in three-dimensional patterns that the aliens struggled to counter. But the real surprise came when the humans began rescue operations in the middle of the battle. While some ships engaged the Srauthek fleet, others descended to the planet's surface to evacuate Kethany survivors from bombardment zones. Lieutenant Sarah Kim piloted her transport ship through atmospheric entry while explosions lit up the sky around her. The Kethany cities were in ruins, but her sensors detected life signs in underground shelters and protected areas. "This is Transport 7, she transmitted to the fleet. I've located a large group of survivors in the northern continent. They're trapped in a subway system, but they're alive." The Kethany survivors Sarah found were unlike anything humanity had imagined. They were tall, graceful beings with elongated limbs and large, expressive eyes. Despite their fear and desperation, they maintained a dignity that impressed the human rescue teams. Zephyr 9, who would later become humanity's first Kethany friend, was among the survivors Sarah rescued. Through emergency translation protocols, Zephyr 9 managed to communicate crucial information about Sralfek weaknesses and battle tactics. Your species fights like no other, Zephyr 9 told Sarah as they loaded survivors onto the transport. The Sralfek cannot adapt to your movement patterns. They are used to enemies who meet them in direct confrontation. As the rescue operations continued, Commander Morrison faced a crucial decision. The human fleet was holding its own against the Sralfek forces, but they couldn't maintain the battle indefinitely. The wormhole would only remain stable for a few more hours. The solution came from an unexpected source. Dr. Elena Vasquez, monitoring the battle from Luna Station 7, realized that the gravitational technology powering their wormhole could be weaponized. Commander Morrison, Elena transmitted through the wormhole, "I can reconfigure our gravitational field to create a localized space-time distortion in the Sralfek fleet formation. It won't destroy them, but it will disable their ships long enough for you to complete the evacuations." Morrison didn't hesitate. "Do it." The gravitational pulse that emanated from the wormhole caught the Sralfek fleet completely off guard. Their massive ships, designed for straightforward combat, couldn't compensate for the sudden distortion of space-time around them. Navigation systems failed, weapons targeting became impossible, and several vessels collided as their crews struggled to maintain control. Human ships used the confusion to complete their rescue operations and regroup for withdrawal. In 4 hours of combat and evacuation, they had rescued over 200,000 Kethani survivors and delivered a stunning defeat to a force that had never lost a battle. As the human fleet prepared to return through the wormhole, High Commander Vextar of the Sralfek Empire transmitted a message that would change galactic history. "Unknown species," the alien commander said, his voice filled with rage and bewilderment. "You have interfered with the natural order. The Sralfek Empire has claimed this system. Withdraw immediately or face the consequences." Commander Morrison's response was broadcast not just to the Sralfek fleet, but to every monitoring station in the galaxy. "This is Commander Jake Morrison of Earth. The Sralfek Empire is no longer the apex predator in this galaxy. Any species that commits genocide will answer to humanity." The human fleet withdrew through the wormhole, carrying with them the rescued Kethani and the knowledge that humanity had just declared war on the largest empire in known space. As the wormhole collapsed behind them, the Sralfek were left to contemplate their first military defeat in over 1,000 years. Admiral Torres met the returning fleet with both celebration and concern. They had saved hundreds of thousands of lives, but they had also made an enemy of a force that controlled dozens of star systems. "Sir," Morrison reported as his ship docked with Luna Station 7, "the Sralfek won't let this stand. They'll be coming for us." Torres nodded grimly. "Then we'd better be ready for them. Humanity just became the galaxy's protector, whether we wanted the job or not." As the rescued Kethani were processed and given medical attention, Zephyr 9 approached Sarah Chun with a message that would define humanity's future role in the galaxy. "Your species did something today that no one thought possible," Zephyr 9 said through a translation device. "You fought an empire that has conquered dozens of civilizations and you won. But more importantly, you risked everything to save strangers you had never met. The galaxy will remember this." Sarah looked out at the stars, knowing that humanity had crossed a line from which there was no return. They were no longer alone in the universe, and they had chosen to stand against the darkness that threatened innocent lives across the galaxy. The storm had been unleashed, and there would be no peace until every predator species learned to fear the name human. When Deathworlders answered the call 3 months after the rescue of the Kethani survivors, humanity faced the inevitable response from the Sralfek Empire. Long-range sensors detected massive fleet movements throughout the galactic arm as the alien empire mobilized forces that dwarfed anything they had previously deployed. Admiral Jackson Torres stood in the command center of Luna Station 7, studying tactical displays that showed the approaching threat. The Sralfek were bringing everything they had, over 3,000 ships, including planet killers and vessels capable of cracking moons in half a doctor. Elena Vasquez continued her research into gravitational technology, but now her work focused on peaceful applications. The same technology that had defeated the Sraulfek Empire was being used to terraform planets, move asteroids for mining, and create transportation networks that connected distant civilizations. It's remarkable, Elena explained to a delegation of alien scientists, how technology designed for war can be transformed into tools for peace. These gravitational manipulators can reshape entire worlds, making hostile planets habitable for refugee populations. The first test came sooner than anyone expected. The Zeridian species, fleeing from the collapsing Sraulfek territories, needed a new homeworld after their planet had been stripped of resources. Using gravitational technology, humanity helped terraform a barren world in just 3 months, creating an environment where the aquatic Zeridians could thrive. Commander Jake Morrison, now Admiral of the First Response Fleet, led the relocation efforts with characteristic human efficiency. His ships, originally designed for war, had been converted into massive rescue and construction vessels capable of moving entire populations between star systems. "This is what we were meant to do," Morrison told his crew as they watched the first Zeridian cities rising on their new world. Not just fight the darkness, but build something better in its place. The transformation of former Sraulfek territories revealed the true scale of their crimes. Dozens of enslaved species were liberated from mining colonies and forced labor camps. Each rescue operation brought new members to the growing alliance, and new stories of survival that inspired the galaxy. Zephyr 9, now serving as the Covenant's chief cultural liaison, worked tirelessly to help rescued species integrate into the alliance. "Every species we save makes us stronger," Zephyr 9 explained to human diplomats. "The Sraulfek tried to rule through fear, but we're building something based on mutual protection and respect." The psychological impact of humanity's victory continued to ripple throughout the galaxy. Species that had hidden in remote systems for centuries began emerging, confident that the age of predator civilizations was ending. The galactic population doubled within the first year of the Covenant's existence, but not all challenges came from external threats. Some species within the Alliance struggled with the concept of humans as protectors rather than conquerors. Dr. Marcus Webb worked to address these concerns through cultural exchange programs and educational initiatives. "Fear is natural," Marcus explained during a cultural sensitivity training session for human personnel. "Many of these species have never encountered a civilization that fights to protect others rather than for personal gain. We need to prove our intentions through our actions, not just our words." The proof came during the Corvin Crisis, when a previously unknown species called the Devourers emerged from the galactic rim and began consuming entire solar systems. Unlike the Sraulfek, who at least conquered civilizations, the Devourers simply consumed all matter they encountered, leaving nothing but empty space. Admiral Torres coordinated the Alliance response from the new command center on Harmony Station, a massive space platform built jointly by 12 different species. "This is what we trained for," he announced to the assembled fleet commanders, "a threat that endangers all life in the galaxy." The battle against the Devourers tested every innovation humanity had developed. Gravitational weapons proved less effective against an enemy that existed partially outside normal space-time, forcing human engineers to develop new technologies in the middle of combat. Captain Sarah Chun, now commanding the diplomatic vessel Unity, coordinated with Alliance scientists to develop quantum disruption weapons capable of affecting beings that existed in multiple dimensions simultaneously. "We're not just fighting for territory or resources," she told the research teams. "We're fighting for the right of consciousness to exist in this universe." The victory over the Devourers came at a cost that sobered the entire Alliance. Thousands of ships were lost, including several vessels carrying entire crews who volunteered for suicide missions to protect evacuation fleets. But the sacrifice wasn't in vain. The Devourer threat was eliminated permanently, and the galaxy learned that some enemies require everything good civilizations can give. The memorial service for the fallen was held simultaneously on hundreds of worlds, with each species honoring the sacrifice in their own way. Admiral Morrison delivered the primary eulogy from Earth, his words broadcast to every member of the Alliance. They died not for glory or conquest, but for the simple belief that life is worth protecting, Morrison said, his voice carrying across the galaxy. Every species here today exists because they chose to stand between the darkness and the light. We will honor their memory by continuing that stand. The decade that followed saw the establishment of institutions that would define galactic civilization for centuries to come. The Academy for Galactic Defense trained officers from every species in the Alliance, teaching both military tactics and humanitarian principles. The Institute for Peaceful Resolution developed diplomatic protocols that prevented conflicts before they required military intervention. Dr. Elena Vasquez, now Director of Alliance Technology Development, oversaw projects that seemed impossible just years earlier. Artificial gravity systems made uninhabitable worlds livable. Quantum communication networks connected civilizations across the galaxy instantly, and medical advances shared between species eliminated diseases that had plagued entire populations. Elena announced during an emergency strategy meeting, "But it's dangerous beyond anything we've attempted. We can use our gravitational manipulation technology to create localized gravity wells throughout the solar system. Essentially, we turn our entire star system into a weapon." Commander Jake Morrison, now promoted to Fleet Admiral, studied Elena's proposal with fascination and concern. "You're talking about using gravitational forces to crush enemy ships?" "More than that," Elena replied. "We can create selective gravity fields that affect only certain materials or energy signatures. We could theoretically disable their entire fleet without destroying a single human installation." The plan that emerged from 3 weeks of intensive preparation was audacious beyond belief. Humanity would use their gravitational technology to turn the solar system itself into a massive trap, luring the Sralfek fleet into positions where they could be neutralized without conventional combat. But the real genius of the plan came from the rescued Kethani survivors. Their knowledge of Sralfek psychology and tactics allowed humanity to predict exactly how the enemy would approach Earth. Zephyr 9 explained the crucial insight during the final briefing. The Sralfek believe in overwhelming force and direct confrontation. They will approach your system in standard formation, expecting your fleet to meet them in open space. They cannot conceive of a species that would use their environment as a weapon. Admiral Morrison positioned the human fleet not in defensive formations around Earth, but scattered throughout the solar system in patterns that seemed random to conventional military thinking. Each ship was positioned near gravitational manipulation installations, ready to coordinate with Elena's gravity weapon network. When the Sralfek fleet arrived, they found exactly what they expected: a smaller human force that seemed woefully inadequate to resist their overwhelming numbers. High Commander Vextar ordered his fleet into standard attack formation, confident that humanity would be crushed within hours. "Begin Phase 1, Admiral Torres ordered from his command center. The first gravitational pulse activated near Jupiter, creating a localized distortion that caught the Sralfek Vanguard completely off guard. Ships that had been moving in perfect formation suddenly found themselves pulled toward the gas giant by forces they couldn't understand or counter. "Impossible," High Commander Vextar snarled from his flagship. "How are they manipulating gravity at this scale?" The answer came as more gravitational wells activated throughout the solar system. Humanity had turned the natural forces of physics into weapons, using technology the Sralfek couldn't comprehend to disable ships without firing a single shot. But the real demonstration of human adaptability came when Morrison led a strike force directly into the heart of the Sralfek formation. Instead of avoiding the massive enemy ships, human vessels used their superior maneuverability to get inside the aliens' defensive perimeters. Lieutenant Commander Amy Rodriguez piloted her ship through the superstructure of a Sralfek dreadnought, using the alien vessel's own bulk as protection from its weapons. Human Marines, equipped with technology designed for operations in the vacuum of space, boarded enemy ships and disabled them from within. "This is Rodriguez," she transmitted as her boarding team secured a Sralfek command ship. "These aliens can't fight in vacuum. Their environmental systems are their weakness." the battle evolved into something unprecedented in galactic history. Humans fought not just in space, but inside gravity wells, within planetary atmospheres, and even in the radiation belts around Jupiter. They used every environmental advantage available, turning conditions that would kill most species into tactical benefits. Captain Sarah Chun coordinated the information warfare aspect of the battle, broadcasting the engagement to every monitoring station in the galaxy. Species throughout known space watched as humanity systematically dismantled the most powerful military force in galactic history. All galactic civilizations. This is Earth Command, Sarah transmitted. The Sraulthek Empire's reign of terror ends today. Any species that commits genocide or enslaves others will face human justice. The turning point came when Dr. Elena Vasquez activated the final phase of her gravitational weapon system. Instead of targeting individual ships, she created a massive gravity well that pulled the entire Sraulthek fleet into a stable orbit around the sun. High Commander Vextar, Admiral Torres transmitted to the trapped alien fleet, "Your ships are now locked in solar orbit. Your crews will not be harmed, but your empire's expansion ends here. You have a choice: surrender and face justice, or be left to contemplate your crimes while orbiting our star for eternity." The psychological impact of the defeat shattered the Sraulthek Empire's morale. For 1,000 years, they had believed themselves to be the apex predators of the galaxy. In a single battle, humanity had proven them wrong using technology and tactics they couldn't understand. High Commander Vextar's response came after hours of desperate attempts to escape the gravitational trap. "What are you?" He transmitted, his voice filled with defeat and bewilderment. Admiral Torres's answer was heard throughout the galaxy. "We are humanity. We are the species that will no longer allow the strong to prey upon the weak. Your empire is finished." The surrender of the Sraulthek fleet marked the beginning of a new era in galactic politics. Within days, representatives from dozens of alien civilizations arrived in the solar system, seeking to form alliances with the species that had liberated them from 1,000 years of fear. Zephyr 9 served as coordinator for the diplomatic meetings that followed. Admiral Zephyr 9 reported, "The Galactic Council is formally dissolving the Sraulthek Empire. 47 species want to join a new alliance with humanity as the primary military force." Dr. Marcus Webb worked to establish communication protocols with the various alien species, each bringing their own gifts to the alliance. The Nexari shared advanced shield technology, the Alterans provided faster-than-light communication systems, and the Voidwalkers offered knowledge of the galaxy's hidden civilizations. But the most significant change was in humanity itself. The species that had once been confined to a single solar system now found themselves responsible for protecting hundreds of civilizations across the galaxy. Captain Sarah Chun, now promoted to Ambassador for Galactic Communications, established the first permanent human embassy on the Kethani homeworld. Standing in the rebuilt capital city, she watched as humans and aliens worked together to rebuild what the Sraulthek had destroyed. "You know," Zephyr 9 said as they observed the construction efforts, "when we first sent that distress signal, we hoped for rescue. We never imagined we were calling for liberation." Sarah smiled as she watched human engineers teaching Kethani workers how to use gravitational technology for peaceful purposes. That's what humans do. We don't just solve problems, we make sure they never happen again. The formation of the Galactic Protection Covenant was formalized 6 months after the defeat of the Sraulthek Empire. Humanity accepted the role of primary military protector, while the Alliance's member species contributed their unique technologies and knowledge to the common defense. Admiral Torres, now Supreme Commander of Galactic Defense, addressed the first joint session of the new alliance. "We didn't seek this responsibility, but we accept it gladly. No species will face extinction alone, while humanity has the power to help." The treaty that established the Covenant included provisions that fundamentally changed galactic civilization. Genocide was declared a crime against all species, slavery was abolished throughout known space, and any civilization that preyed upon others would face the combined response of the Alliance. But perhaps the most important change was the establishment of the Emergency Response Protocol. Any species facing extinction could broadcast a distress signal that would trigger an immediate humanitarian response from the Alliance fleet. A.S. Sarah Chun prepared the final communication report for Earth. She reflected on how much had changed since that first desperate signal from Ekethani. Humanity had gone from being unknown to becoming the galaxy's protector in less than a year.